Drake canceled his tour and part of his lawsuit. Okay, now, the Super Bowl game, Kendrick Lamar called him out. I'm gonna assume, because I heard like he went to Australia to escape, but he said, no, they gonna catch me there. I seen some comments saying, yeah, they gonna catch me there too. But let's go ahead and see.
Lawbreeze and Gentlegrams, in today's episode of Lawbree in Gentleland, the losses for the lullaby-loving litigation lunatic keep climbing quick like karma slick arithmetic. The champagne-claiming plaintiff petition padre on the run fled America to the Aussie sun, singing some sexy sleepy love songs for fun. He steered clear of the Super Bowl stage-strutting scene where the sharp-shooting, short-statured assassin and Serena reigned supreme, and slaughtered the spiraling, sensitive stunt double a sexy red, leaving prom queen Princess Champagne Poppy ducking his career left for dead. Drake, the courthouse Karen, Canada's phony Montana, pulled the plug on his shows, his tour ending more brutally than his relationship with Rihanna. The Anita Max Win Tour now losing its steam as the stake-slinging singer slips out of the scene. And what about the wedding bells he wished to ring for Rihanna, Serena, or Nicki Minaj as queen? Drake's Love Life and Australian tour are both ballads of could have been bliss, just heartbreak hits and misses he'll forever reminisce. Now go ahead and give that like and subscribe button a little kick as we peel the layers back here. So it all starts off at the beginning of the week when the final numbers came in for the first week sales of the OVO Freaky Frontliners' latest collab album with Party Next Door, Some Sexy Sleepy Love Songs. And you guys tell me if this is a W or an L. The album sold 247,000 copies in the first week. For most artists, this would be great, right? But you gotta remember a couple things. Number one, this is Drake, the guy who prides himself on being bigger than Michael Jackson, bigger than the Beatles, having more numbers on the charts than number of failed relationships. Same guy who on his very first diss track to Kendrick said he gets more love in Kendrick City. Kendrick isn't in no big three because 21 Savage, SZA, and Travis Scott had him wiped down. The first number one, Kendrick, Future, Rick Ross, or The Weeknd had, Drake had to put it in their hands. The same guy who's as big as the Super Bowl, right? Well, it's been almost a year since that push-ups record dropped. Mr. Big as the Super Bowl ended up getting his name called out on the Super Bowl stage by Kendrick Lamar. Meanwhile, that whole 20B1 he was going up against, the album that started this entire battle, We Don't Trust You by Future Metro Boomin, which had the song Like That on it with Kendrick, that album sold 253,000 in the first week. Drake also took shots at The Weeknd. The Weeknd's latest project in 2025 sold over 400,000 copies in the first week, and we know GNX in its 12th week of release sold 250,000 copies in the first week. And say what you
I gotta go to OBS and adjust my camera because it just fell. There we go.
Want about the L that Drake took in this beef, but the beef was promotion in and of itself, right? Kendrick performed in front of 30% of the American population, saying Drake's name letter for letter, say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. And the beef in and of itself was more promotion than Drake got all year. If you look at Google Trends, the amount of searches for Drake's name had insane spikes on both the week that Not Like Us was released and the week of the Super Bowl. So it's safe to say Drake had a lot of eyeballs on him, a lot of attention going into this album, which is promotion in and of itself. The numbers definitely weren't bad per se, but they were lower than everyone in that 20v1, Future, The Weeknd, Metro, Kendrick. And if you look at all of his first week album sales, you'll see that Some Sexy Sleepy Love Songs is the fourth lowest project in the first week that Drake has ever had in his entire career. And this wasn't some small project either. This had 21 songs on it. The more songs, the easier it is to rack up a bunch of streams. And meanwhile, Kendrick's GNX and the song Not Like Us blocked all the songs from the Sexy Sleepy album from hitting number one or even the top 5 of the Billboard charts this week. And the battle in the booth may have ended, but the battle on the charts between Drake and Kendrick Lamar has never been stronger, because the whole first week of that Sexy Sleepy song album's release, Kendrick remained the number one artist on US Spotify. But to give the lost Laden Lawbree a little W, he actually returned to that number one spot on the US Spotify Top Artist chart and dethroned Kendrick just the other day. But if you look at what's about to happen on this second week of release, it might be hilarious, right? GNX, which has now been out for, I believe, 14 weeks. It also has almost half the amount of songs as Drake's new album, so it's much harder for it to rack up the same amount of streams. In its 14th week, 1,020 plus MG passes Lady Gaga and the...
Because I know what Kendrick did.
Is definitely not going to be cooking up more of is shows in Australia, as he just announced that he's going to be canceling or rescheduling the Anita Max Win Tour dates that were supposed to take place in New Zealand in a couple weeks from now. Billboard announced the news, and let's go through the entire article. So they said, with 4 shows left on his 16-date sold-out tour of Australia and New Zealand, Drake has cut short his latest trip down under. Drake has called off the remaining dates of his current tour of Australia and New Zealand. News of the postponement comes just hours after the OVO rapper wrapped up a performance in Brisbane, which itself took place alongside swirling rumors of an impending premature end to the trek. On the afternoon of Wednesday, February 26th, it was confirmed that Drake has indeed axed the remaining dates of his tour down under. According to Rolling Stone, a statement from the musician's representatives has confirmed the remaining 4 shows of his 16-date Anita Max Win Tour have been axed due to a quote-unquote scheduling conflict. Drake's representative released a statement about the cancelled Anita Max Win Tour dates, but before we get into that, unlike Drake, a bunch of you guys have been telling me you've been Anita Max winning some free cash from playing mobile games, so I want to put all you guys on something that almost seems too good to be true. All right, let me give you a little glimpse into my life. When I'm not making this content for you guys, I have a disgusting life. Freecash.com is a or using. My favorite is the Monopoly Bucks will be postponed. On a side note, we're going to get into it. They were most definitely not sold out. Anyways, we'll continue. We are actively working on rescheduling these dates along with adding some additional ones. All tickets for the affected shows will remain valid for the new dates. Refunds will be available for those who prefer, but please note that as these shows are sold out, any refunded tickets will be released for sale. We sincerely...
He's like, no, I don't want to go to Australia and get they on my ass. Nah. They're still gonna get on him no matter when he comes.
Really apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate your patience. Drake and the entire team have had an incredible time doing these shows and are excited to return. We look forward to sharing the rescheduled dates with you as soon as possible. Now, the Breakfast Club also said they spoke to someone in Drake's camp, and they said the reason why these dates have effectively been canceled for now and might be rescheduled in the future is because there was some sort of routing issue with their schedule. They messed up the schedule. And essentially, if Drake wanted to do these shows in New Zealand, he'd have to wait in Australia with nothing to do essentially for 12 days, which obviously is bad for business. And keeping, his entire stage design, all his dancers, hair, makeup, all that stuff, keeping the team there for the 12 days costs money. And then also flying back to America and then flying back to Australia will also cost money.
What I'm told from a source is that everything is good, y'all. They just had a routing mess up towards the end of the tour. So basically, they had Drake doing 4 shows in 16 days. So essentially, if he had done that, he would have been sitting around in Australia doing nothing for 12 days. And that's a huge waste of money and time because you got to pay for his dancers, his production, his lighting crew. It's like there's a lot of overhead for the tour. So they just, scheduling conflict.
That don't make any sense. So you said he'd have been sitting there for 12 days in between shows.
Yeah, I guess they weren't consecutive. So the way they did it was
they didn't know that
out.
before they booked them?
But this is weird for a couple reasons, right? Firstly, this tour was planned all the way back, or at least it was announced all the way back in September of 2024. Sorry, closer to November of 2024. But that was still 3 months ago. That was when GNX was released. And to put it into perspective again, GNX is still beating this new Drake album that just came out.
Like, the ones that they're thinking, like, they didn't know it. Like, they're
out 2 weeks ago on the charts today. But yeah, this tour was planned months in advance. You would think that they would account for scheduling issues like this, right? Then you also have to take into account some of these dates were actually pushed back and new dates were actually added to the initial lineup. Why were they pushed back initially? Well, some people chalked it up to more scheduling issues. Some people said it might have been due to low ticket sales. Because if you actually looked online a couple weeks back before this tour started, you were still very easily able to get tickets at very reasonable prices. When a tour sells out, normally you could only get resold tickets, which have crazy markups on the pricing. These New Zealand shows especially, even though Drake hasn't been there in over 8 years, the prices prices were pretty low, and these weren't resold tickets. These were the original tickets that were published and just never bought. So you can see way back in January 29th, Drake actually had to push back 2 of his shows that were in New Zealand by 2.5 weeks. At that time, he had only sold out 1 section out of 34, and the arena holds about 12,000 people. So you can see here, in late January, all these seats basically were still available, and all the dates that were supposed to line up one after the other, likely due to low ticket sales, Drake had to push them back. The dates from February 28th and March 1st, he pushed them back to March 15th and 16th. These are the dates that he's now canceling, and he's claiming he's canceling them because if he didn't, he'd have to wait in Australia for 12 days in between these shows. But the only reason he would have to wait so long is because he pushed these shows back in the first place. So my question is, why did he push these dates back to begin with? If he didn't push them back initially, he wouldn't have the excuse of, oh, I have to wait in Australia for 12 days, and there'd be no quote-unquote scheduling issue to cancel these shows. He likely pushed these shows back to begin with because the ticket sales were low, and he thought, okay, if you give more time in between the dates, they'll see the hype between.
If you want to quit your job and work from home, flick this setting on your phone. My family laughed when I said I'd quit my job to work from my...
Yeah.
Of March. Now he's realizing, oh crap, if I... Rumors going around that before he actually canceled the dates, you were able to get tickets for as low as $15 US. That was apparently proven to be false, and that tickets were actually going for around $46 US. Those were the cheapest seats, but even at $46 US, in an arena of around 12,000 people, that's only around $500,000 of revenue generated from one of the shows. You wouldn't be selling tickets for such a low price if they weren't struggling to sell out. Tickets, to put into perspective for Tyler the Creator, where I'm from in Canada, the cheapest ones are going for around $250.
Yeah, I would think tickets would be like 100 plus.
Canadian, which is like $170 US. For these Drake tickets to only be $46 in 2025 is insane. I'm kind of jealous, honestly. Like, there's nothing I like more than a cheap pair of concert tickets. But what realistically happened here was there was a scheduling conflict. They scheduled all these dates. Some of these shows were not selling out like they thought they would. Only 1 section was sold out of 34 sections. So they thought, okay, let's push back the dates by about 2 weeks. Let's lower the prices so people can buy them for $46. Surely they're going to sell out. They did not end up selling out. And Drake's team probably realized, okay, we have like a staff of 100 plus members to keep them in Australia for the next, 12 days, and to keep Drake here for 12 days. We're missing out on business opportunities, and this show is not selling like we thought it would. Even if it's sold out, which it's not, tickets are selling for $46. We're not going to generate a lot of revenue here. It's going to be expensive to keep everyone here. We might as well just call it quits and leave, just like he did with the battle. Now, initially, overall, I did think it was a smart move for Drake to go to Australia during the Super Bowl. Obviously, from a human level, it kind of distracts him from all the hate he'll be getting within America. It's a different time
He's going to get it in Australia too.
difference. He doesn't actually have to watch the Super Bowl, right? Because he'll probably be sleeping by the time it airs. Also, you're the laughingstock of America right now. You'll go to Australia, get all this love from your crowds. It'll distract you. Plus,
No, Australia's still going to come at him.
online, the shows will be lit. It'll show people you still get love all around the world. Even dropping an R&B album, I thought that was kind of smart, right? Because if he dropped a hip-hop album, everyone would be expecting a response to the beef, all his thoughts on the lawsuit, on what Kendrick said about him. And of course, everyone would be comparing his rap album to Kendrick's GNX. With an R&B album, he kind of has the excuse of saying, oh yeah, Kendrick might be outselling me. This album might not be performing as well, but I have that crutch. It's an R&B album, and it's an album with Party Next Door. It's not supposed to be, an album that breaks out massively on the charts. And with the Australia thing, he could say, okay, so Kendrick's doing this massive Super Bowl performance. Everyone's cheering him up. Supposed to be, an album that...
All right, y'all. I heard what I needed to hear. Y'all know what I'm saying. Yeah, we know why. We know why you went away, though. We know why. Anyways, y'all, like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment any other things y'all want me to react to, and follow my Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter.